Good morning. This is Kailash Kesharwani from Panna. Today we are going to have the study and appreciation of the poem written by a very famous poet of Romantic era, that is John Keats. John Keats is a very famous figure in Romantic movement of literature. He has composed several poems, and one of the poems which is prescribed to us, A Thing of Beauty, is a joy forever. So far as the poem is concerned, that this poem is one of the immortal poems of English literature. Regarding John Keats, he was a British Romantic poet and he was a surgeon by profession. Later on, he has decided devote himself for poetry. A Thing of Beauty, written by John Keats, received contemptuous criticism after his release. People were making a lot of opinions, especially the negative remarks about him. Keats himself noted its unpleasant style, but he did not regret writing, as he equated the process to diving into the ocean to become more familiar with his surroundings. So this is what the philosophy, what he has presented there in the poem. He himself has followed that philosophy in the life as well. Keats was never afraid of failure, for he believed that he would sooner fail than not to be among the greatest. Not all the critics detested the work. Some of the poets said that the song of Endymion beats throughout with a noble poet's sense of all that his art means for him. What accustomed defects there are in it may even serve to accelerate our sense of the youth and brightness of this video of aspirations. So far as the background of the poem is concerned, the poem is an excerpt, a piece taken from a long book, from the famous poem Endymion, a poetic romance. The poem is based on a Greek legend in which Endymion, a beautiful young shepherd and poet who lived on Mount Latmos, had a vision of Cynthia, the moon goddess. The enchanted youth has decided to seek her out, so he wandered away through the forest down under the sea. So this is what the background of the poem, and we come to the introduction of the poem. In this poem, the poet depicts that a thing of beauty is a joy forever, a joy even in the mirth of diseases, suffering, and disappointments of life. This joy of beauty comes to a man through his senses. So, although we have a lot of ups and downs in our life, but we must not give up at any stage. Accept the blessings of the God, accept the problems as a gift of God, and turn it into the opportunities. As in the present pandemic situation of COVID-19, we have seen a lot of problems, a lot of harsh realities to our life, but still, man is a paragon among animals, and all the time he is making efforts to get success and become victorious. Poet is excited by the beauty of external world and therefore have a wonderful and delightful experience. The trees, flowers, streams, mountains, sun and moon are all objects of beauty, and they provide us joy forever. Obviously, whenever we are meditating, brooding, thinking, and reminding our previous experiences, Always our good and happy memories makes us smile even when nobody is present there where we are meditating. Regarding tone, in this poem, Endymion, the mythical character has a tone of a desire for a romantic self-transcendence, upliftment that aims at fusing his own self with the embarrassment of cosmic creations. It is the perception of viewing the subject of the critical mind which is responsible for his own well-being. Now we come to the text of the poem. Before we read, what pleasures does a beautiful thing give us? Are beautiful things worth the treasuring? Now we can enjoy the poem. Pay attention to the poem recitation. A thing of beauty is a joy forever, its loveliness increases. It will never pass into nothingness, but will keep a power quite for us. And a sleep full of sweet dreams and health and quiet breathing. Therefore, on every morrow we are wreathing a flowery band to bind us to the earth. In spite of despondence of the inhuman dearth of noble nature, of the gloomy days, of all the unhealthy and over-darkened ways. Made our searchings, yes, in spite of all, some shape of beauty moves away the pall, find our dark spirits, such the moon, the sun, trees old, young, sprouting a steady boon. Some simple sheep and such are daffodils. Some simple sheeps Some simple sheep and such are daffodils, with the green world they live in, and clear rills that for themselves a cooling covert make. Against the hot season the mid-forest break, rich with a sprinkling of fair musk rose blooms, and such too is the grandeur of the dooms. We imagine for the mighty dead all lovely tales that we have heard or read, an endless fountain of immortal drink pouring unto us upon the heaven's brink. So this is what the recitation of the poem is. A poem is basically meant for pleasure of singing as well as appreciating. Now we can enjoy a video this time. We can see the video here, A Thing of Beauty. It is an excerpt from Keats' poem Endymion, a poetic romance, published in 1818 as I have already informed you. It will never pass into nothingness, but still will keep a bower and protection for us and the sleep full of sweet dreams and health. Quiet and breathing. Are we reading, creating, making a flowery bend to bind us to the earth? Spite of despondence, of the inhuman dearth, lack of noble natures, of searching, yet in spite of all, some shape of beauty moves with the ball from our darkest pits. Such the sun, the moon, trees old and young, spouting a steady bone for simple sheep, and such are daffodils with the ocean world they live in, and clear rills that for themselves a cooling covert make against the hot season. The mid-forest brake, rich with a sprinkling of fair musk rose blooms, and such too is the grandeur of the dunes. We have imagined for the mighty dead all lovely tales that we have heard or read. An endless fountain of immortal drink, come to us, pouring out to us from the heavens' brink. Now we have enjoyed the poem through the beautiful video. The video itself is explaining the mood, the tone, the theme of the poem, as well as the purpose for which it is written. It is really a very soothing and calm experience for all of us when we go through this poem, first in the form of text, then in the form of video. Now we come to the theme. In this poem, in many ways, Keats signifies his firm belief of non-destruction of beauty. Beauty is not destroyed, it is immortal, and its claim to legitimacy with reference to its permanence and its ability to call up or contextualize the truth. This forms the main theme of the poem. The poet's artistic view of beauty, an obstinate source of pleasure and joy, comes in the face of knowledge of the sharp problems of life, to which the important thing of beauty offer their own mode of struggle. Unlike the commonplace objects of everybody, certainty, the objects of beauty are resistance to the perishability of time and indeed of mortality. The good deeds, what the persons are doing, although people are dying, but their good deeds are always shining here in this world. A lot of persons are there in this world who have done something better for the betterment of humanity and mankind. Although in physical sense they are not here, but their goodness is always respected and emulated by the people of the world. All the beautiful things, they are joy not for one time only. They are for the whole life whenever we are getting inspiration from them. In the concluding part of the poet says that beautiful things are figuratively an endless source of nectar, a kind of immortal drink which is supposed to be brought by the gods according to our Indian mythology, and comes down to earth from heaven, bringing eternal joy for the grandeur of the soul. They are like a medicine of life. Obviously, these good memories, these good moments, these good deeds are just like the medicines of life, a never diminishing source of pleasure and delight. a boundless source of joy that seems to be a precious gift from heaven. A beautiful thing will give you joy throughout one's lifetime. One can return to a beautiful thing and never finish finding it a source of joy. Even after one dies, the thing of beauty will continue to exist and give joy to the people of the next age group. A poem is a poetic composition, and a lot of things are there which are making the poem a beautiful and loving device to enjoy, read and sing. The poetic devices of this poem we can discuss. Alliteration. There are three pairs of alliteration here in this poem we have found. First is the sound na, which was present there in the word noble and natures. Alliteration is the repetition of sound, repetition of consonant sound in any prose or poetic line. The sound ka is there in the word cooling and covered. And another use of alliteration we can perceive there in the words bend and bind, that is ba sound. Apart from alliteration, another poetic device which has been used here, that is metaphor. Metaphor is a direct comparison. Metaphor is evidently used in our quiet, sweet dreams and wreathing a flower bed. In the next lines, Keats gave us another use of metaphor by mentioning Paul, an endless fountain of immortal drink. Another use of poetic device, that is symbol, which is very common in all the poems, because what we observe and see, the poet wants to appeal us something symbolical, and here the symbol, the biblical symbol is used here, that is simple sheep, which is referring to the Christ as the shepherd. Another use is transferred epithet. Here we would like to understand it, because it is not a very common poetic device used in almost all the poems, just as we have seen alliteration or metaphor or simile like that. A transfer epithet is a little known but often used figure of speech in which a modifier, usually an adjective, qualifies a noun other than the person or thing that is actually describing. We can understand it by the examples like cruel bars. The bars presumably installed in a prison are non-living objects. If they are non-living objects, how can the living quality of cruelty can be applied to them? It is not the bars which are cruel, but the person who installed the bars, that is cruel. The bars merely serve to develop the person's cruel intentions, purposes. The same meaning, sleepless night. All the persons are not so that they are sleeping there in the night, and all the persons are not so that they are not sleeping in the night. No, it is the person experiencing a night during which he or she cannot sleep who is sleepless. In the same manner, another expressions of transferred epithet we can see, that is suicidal sky. Can sky be a suicidal? No, not at all. But a dark, ominous sky might add to the depressed feeling of a suicidal individual. So this is what the transferred epithet has been given to us, like gloomy days, unhealthy and over-darkened ways. Imagery is the quality of the word which is creating a kind of picture before our eyes. The poem is rich in imagery, as we have seen there in the video as well. The beautiful words have created a very beautiful and pleasing pictures among us. It can be found in the clause like flowery bands, which visualizes a bunch of flowers like a band. The use of the clause saddy bone also pictures the blessings to be saddy. The word daffodils in green world, clear rills, the rivers, grandeur of the dunes, etc. are the instances of the use of imagery. Cooling covered, endless fountain of immortal eternal drink are one of the notable examples of imagery used in the poem. So far as the rhyming scheme of the poem is concerned, as we have seen that the rhyme scheme of the poem is a, ba ba, sa, da da. Some of the important expressions which can be very beneficial and important for us from the point of view of exams as well. The bow or quiet for us, a distinct place in our memory or a separate shelter, which is exclusively kept of the human beings. Another expression is wreathing a flowery band to mind, an accumulation of sweet remembrance when we are reminding the sweet memories of our life and the beautiful experiences which act as a connecting link to the human remain existed to the world in the time of alienation. Inhuman dearth of noble natures, irreparable, inhuman and illogical lack of virtues and human values which tend to make human beings feel disheartened. Made our searchings, all the complications and ordeals of life are quite obvious for mankind to undergo, sometimes for other in their life. Simple sheep, innocent humankind referred to as flock of sheep in Bible, and such as Jesus is shepherd. Another important expressions in the poem, cooling covered, unexpected and fortunate soothing effect of the fountains and source of water in desert and hot water. Grandeur of the dunes, very important expressions, most of the times asked in the exam. Here it is the meaning, the magnificence and inspirational vibes of the martyrdom for some noble cause, the people who have sacrificed their life for the noble cause, for the betterment of mankind. Mighty dead, the great people who laid their lives quite selflessly for the good of others. Endless fountain of immortal drink, that is, ever-flowing bounties and pleasure of life, which are no less than nectar. Though human beings have been given a mortal lifespan, however, there are innumerable things by which it can be lived immortality. Heaven's brink, ever-flowing and ever-generating source of the blissful bounties given by God. Now we have some extract-based questions, and these extract-based questions can be discussed from the point of view exam. The very first question is, read the extract given below and answer the questions that follow. Such too is the grandeur of the dooms. We have imagined for the mighty dead all lovely tales that we have heard or read, an endless fountain of immortal drink pouring unto us upon heaven's brink. Questions: name the poem and the poet. What is the thing of beauty mentioned in these lines? What image does the poet use in these lines? And the last question, what is the effect of the immortal drink on us? So such kind of questions are a part of exams. We have been having suggested answers for this extract, as the first question there was of a thing of beauty and joy forever, and the poet is John Keats. Now the beautiful things mentioned in these lines is the group of stories celebrating the glory of our powerful ancestors, which we have read or heard. The poet uses the image of an endless fountain of coming down to us from heaven. According to him, nature and other beautiful things around us are like a gift from God, which give us infinite light and joy. The immortal drink gives us immense joy, a joy that is everlasting, one that will never come to an end. Another extract we have been given along with some suggested answers. Sometimes the extract of two lines are given, and at that time it is very difficult to recognize the name and the poet. So all of you are advised to read the poems and the words very carefully so that you can easily get, even in two lines extract, the correct name of the poem and the poet. First one is, how does beauty help us when we are burdened with grief? Now again the expressions we have discussed earlier, that is important expressions, and sometimes we have been given this kind of questions like explain. Identify the figure of speech in the above lines as we have already discussed. Why are our spirits referred to as a dark? So such kind of questions are also given to us. Whenever we look at a beautiful object, we are filled with comfort and joy. When we are burdened with grief, a thing of beauty comes as a ray of hope and makes us forget our sorrow and suffering at least for some time. Beauty is an abstract idea and has no specific shape. The poet here means beauty in some form or some beautiful objects which please us. The above lines present is an example of metaphor. Our souls are steeped in sadness and disappointment, which are compared to a pall or shroud covering the dead. Our spirits are dejected due to extreme sadness and disappointment, which may be the result of our own evil actions. So the poet refers to them as dark because of the hopelessness we feel. So such kind of questions are very common so far as the extract based questions are concerned. The basic thing which we have to keep in mind while attempting the extract based questions, first of all, the correct spelling of the poem as well as the poet. Secondly, its important expressions given in the poem. Thirdly, the figures of speech, the beautiful objects, the beautiful aspects of the poem which are making a poem worthy to read. So these are the common questions which we are supposed to get and which we are supposed to prepare, as we have seen here in this case as well. Such kind of questions are there.